Now. Hello, everybody. How are you? I am Rose Fuller, the Director of the Career Development Services Office at FGCU, and we are having a really special event today. We're going to talk about interviewing, and we've got 5 fantastic professionals with us, our hot recruiters that love to hire our students. And why don't we go through and I'll sort of call out for introductions, and just because everybody's page is different. So Keely, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. So I'm Keely Murray. I am the senior recruiter with Reach Mobi. We're a local tech company and build mobile apps. We are based out of Bonita Springs. So if you know where Coconut Point Mall is, we're right across the street.
Thank you. Okay, Andy, why don't we go to you?
Andy Ranke from Collier County Public Schools. I'm in charge of staffing and recruitment for all of our secondary schools, our alternative schools, and our district building. Welcome.
Thank you. And Kevin, let's go with you.
All right, my name is Kevin Rosser. I'm a corporate recruiter for Lee Health. I'm responsible for essentially all administrative opportunities outside of the hospital and support in the hospital as well. That's administrative.
Thank you. So Theta.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Suthita Palmer. I'm the Director of Recruitment here at Northwestern Mutual, the Naples Cicero Group. So our office is located here at Coconut Point Mall, and I am in charge of pretty much all of the recruiting as well as our internship program. So very excited to be here and connecting with all of you. So thank you for having us.
Thanks. And then finally, Alyssa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa McCoy. I'm a recruiter with Arthrex, and our corporate headquarters is based in Naples, Florida, but we also have locations in Fort Myers and Ave Maria. And my role is to hire college students along with high school students for our internships and co-ops.
Thank you. Okay, great. For all the participants that are on right now, if you have questions throughout, you can put them into the chat and I'll kind of throw them in there, and then we can open it up to, you can actually ask them yourself at the end. But we're just going to kind of hear some tips and advice from all of these professionals. So I'm going to sort of start it on a big picture component. If anyone wants to start with, like, what are your philosophy on interviewing best practices? Anyone want to start?
Yeah, I'll go. Pretty much just be yourself, be as professional as you can, research the company and the position that you are interviewing for, you know, really researching the company, know what you are getting yourself into and seeing if the culture is what you're looking for and values really align with your values.
Great. Okay, anybody else want to contribute? Kevin?
Yeah, I would say going and preparing, this great advice preparing for the interview, but keep this in mind. You were chosen to be interviewed. That means that you're qualified. Why am I saying that? Go in there confident. Go in there confident. Know that the person who's interviewing you, that person has been where you've been. And the goal is to see if you're going to fit the culture of that company. Because if they're going to have you come in, that means that there's some boxes checked. Okay, they have the qualifications. Just be yourself, be confident, and do your best to be relaxed. But if you keep that mindset that you deserve to be there, I think that will help.
I'd like to add as well to what Kevin said. So I think, interviewing at companies, it gives you a really good opportunity to really get a good sense and tone of the culture there. And I think he's exactly right. Be you, be authentic, and really the steps of the hiring process should highlight that company culture. And you should have a really good fit or feel towards the end of it if that's going to be a good fit for you.
I'd like to echo what the team has already talked about as well. couple of pieces that we really highlight when we talk with the students are really truly being yourself. I know it's hard, nervous. Oftentimes there's a lot of people that are staring at you and waiting for great responses. But if you're sitting at the table, we've done our homework. We know that you're qualified. It really comes down to really seeing if you're a match for the culture of the company. And sometimes we get disappointed when we walk away from an interview and we don't get the job. But that doesn't mean that you're not qualified for the position. That doesn't mean that you can't do that job. That just means that we were looking for somebody a little bit different at that moment in time that would be better fit for our culture. And as much as we are out there interviewing you, come prepared with questions because you should be interviewing the company as well.
Good advice.
I guess I'll add to you at the end. I couldn't agree more with what everyone else said, but to be yourself, I couldn't stress that more. And we say that because, you may be interviewing for a job, just like Andy said, and you may not get it, but by being yourself and really showing what skills you have, we could sense that you're a better fit for another job that we have open and offer you that position instead. So I couldn't stress it more, but just be yourself and be confident and you'll be just fine.
Thank you. So speaking about the being yourself, one of the things that is important is for the mutual engagement, right? So how do you guys as employers try to engage with your candidate? What's a way you get to know them and help them relax?
So we always like to ask, start by asking where you're from, especially if candidates are coming in from out of state. I always try and relate on a college level. I'm an FGCU alum, so that's a great icebreaker as well. And, talking about what classes they're taking, what professors they had, and that kind of eases candidates a little bit, especially when you can relate with the person you're interviewing with. But we do try and keep personal chat to a minimum, just because we're trying to really dive into the candidate's skill sets as well as their employment history. So, but besides that, I think just starting off an interview, talking about yourself, where you're from, what you enjoy, what kind of classes you had, etc., are a great way to start a conversation.
Yeah, for us here, I always like to start off by asking the student, well, tell me something about you that is not on your resume, that really, makes you a little different than what your resume is showing, and that's always a good icebreaker for us as well.
Great. Anybody else?
I would like to add as well, talking about what Alyssa was talking about. A lot of what we do when they are responding to questions with specific information is where we will start to go off and ask further follow-up questions to some of the things that they're saying. And sometimes that can become a good conversation and we start to get a little bit deeper into the actual person that we are interviewing. So we have scripted questions, of course, and we like to stick to that because we do like to keep the personal conversations to a minimum, but a lot of their responses allow for us to engage in that personal connection.
Thanks.
What I typically do is I just to piggyback on what I extend what I was talking about earlier as far as helping the candidate feel comfortable. I essentially try to help them understand that I've been where they've been at. I tell them that I want them to be as authentic as they possibly can. I'm here to make sure that you fit our culture, and I empower them and encourage them that way. In healthcare, we're looking for authenticity. So that's important for me. And the opportunities that I'm responsible for, these individuals are interacting with our patients. In some cases, they're the first interaction with the patient. So I need someone authentic. So I asked them what inspired them to apply for the opportunity. Why healthcare? And typically there's a story that goes into that that's very inspiring. So.
Great. Nice. Anyone else? Okay.
I would just like to say, as far as Reach Moby, we try to definitely take a little bit of a conversational approach. We definitely have certain questions that we go over because we want to hear about the professional experience, but we definitely have a bit of a conversational approach. We want to hear, how do you unwind when times are stressful? We want to get to know the person. So I would say, engaging in a little bit of small talk definitely goes a long way to help ease with the interview jitters that can happen.
Yes. Good. So for some of our students they're just getting into it. This may be their first internship search or their first job search. Can you tell us each, maybe we will go around to all 5 of you, what is your interview process like in terms of how many interviews? Are you doing phone interviews first, then moving to on campus, or, what should the candidate expect with the process?
I can start.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Kevin, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Well, basically on the initial point of contact, if you would, the introduction to the interview process starts with me. And so what I tell the candidate, and I do this actually when I'm interviewing them, I give them an expectation. So I essentially let them know, and I basically put the onus on me as the person who's going to decide to have them advance to the next step of the interview process. So I don't hide from that, but I let them know that if I feel that they're a fit, then I basically map out, if you would, the process. And typically it's, for my opportunities that I'm responsible for, it's a 4-part process. So it starts with me, and then they'll go to the hiring managers and then the system director. And typically that's a 2-interview process when they get to the system director, if you would. So that's typically my interview process with them.
Okay, thanks. Alyssa, you want to go?
Sure. So at Arthrex, and of course every company is different, but with our candidates, you first have to apply online to be considered for a position. Once you have submitted your application, you typically hear back within a 2-week time frame from our recruitment team. If you are selected for an interview, you will then be scheduled for a phone interview with our recruiter. And then after a phone interview, we typically want you to speak with the hiring manager. So that would be a second phone interview. After that interview, then we bring candidates on site for an interview to meet with not only myself, the hiring manager, but also key members of the team. So ours is usually a 3-step process.
Okay.
And then during that on-site stage, we will then let candidates know what a timeline is that they can hear back regarding an offer, which is, we usually say 2 weeks as well, just depending on how many candidates are in process.
Okay, great.
And Rose, we're kind of a hybrid of all of that. Also depends on the time of the year too, because we have a time frame where we got to get most of our people in positions before the school year starts. But typically, if we're running at this time of the season, which is our heart of our hiring season, we are screening applicants, and we have a big team that is screening applicants to push out to our hiring managers. And that screening process is going through all of the application documents. It may also include a follow-up with a phone screen interview with a few questions, just to get a little bit deeper with each of those candidates. Sometimes we're able to do that, sometimes we're not. Again, that is dependent upon the time of the year that we are in. Then we do follow that up, and we push the applicants out to our hiring managers. And the hiring managers then have the autonomy to be able to either set up a 1-step interview process, or they can build with their team a 2 to 3-step process. And then they go ahead and make their selection, and they submit that back to human resources, and then we do the follow-up completion.
Okay, nice. So Theta, how about you?
Sure. So ours is a 3-step process. I'm the first point of contact. I do all of the first initial meetings. Like to all do them face-to-face here in the office, so that way the students can kind of see our environment as well. I do, just like Kevin, map out expectations that that lets the students know what to expect if they are being moved forward. And then the second stage is in meeting with my internship director, Kyle Terzak. And then if moved forward from Kyle, then is actually sitting down and meeting with our managing director, Chris Pownall. And Chris is the one that is fully in charge of our district office here. And the students will be expected to do like a 5-minute presentation to Chris. And then if that all goes well, then the three of us collaborate, and then I then extend the offer to the student.
Okay, so presentations, those are big.
Yeah.
Okay, Keely.
Awesome, cool. So we have a 4-step process. It'll start with me. We'll do a recruiter screen. Then we will do a hiring manager video interview. That should be about 30 minutes. And then after that, we do a case assessment. We're super creative and innovative in our environment, so we want these individuals to showcase their creativity and innovation and put their skills to work. And then the final step, typically it's an on-site, but due to COVID-19, we've moved to virtual. And we are having candidates virtually walk through their case assessment. I outline this in a recruiting guideline, and I send it to each candidate after the initial call with me, so they can have an idea of, timeline, all the steps that, they should expect in the process.
Great. So a lot of hands-on, kind of diving right in. Okay, so it sounds like Keely has also adjusted to COVID, and it sounds like the rest of you have also. Nobody's really bringing anybody live yet. I didn't hear. Are they?
We are actually.
You are, okay.
Yep, as of June
okay.
1st, candidates
June
have been invited to come on site, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and we actually have interns here now with us here in the office.
Great, fantastic. Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some typical questions that you may ask unique to your company, maybe. Not necessarily technical questions, but more something that, or even unique to just you as the recruiter, that you have found over the years, or that has worked for you. Can you share maybe one of those kind of different questions that work for you?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, no, you please. I'll let you go.
Oh, sure. Okay. So actually, this is one of my favorite questions. My team's kind of adapted this question too. So I always ask, hey, if I were to give you a magic wand, what would that dream job look like for you? If you could create the perfect dream job, perfect company, I want to hear it and learn about it. You really uncover a lot in as far as like the type of pace they want to be in, the type of environment that they want to be in, and really like, is the job that they're applying for something that they truly want? So,
and is it a match, right?
Is it a match? Yeah.
You sound like a career counselor, because that's what I often ask our students. What is the dream job? Okay, Kevin, tell us what your question is.
Sure. Lee Health, we're all about service. So, and no matter what role that you're applying for. So, what's important to me as a representative of Lee Health, with the responsibility I have to actually place folks that fit our culture, is I want to know what the candidate's philosophy of customer service is. We view all of our patients as our customers. So I asked that question, give me an example. I mean, what is your philosophy of customer service? And I just leave it there. And typically when I do that without prompting them, I get a chance to kind of get opportunity to open, their heart, if you would. And we're looking for individuals who have an empathetic approach to that. So and that's my go-to.
Okay.
We usually ask, if the student is currently working at the moment, we like to ask, of course, what they're doing for employment, what they like about that job, and also what they dislike about that job, and if they could change anything about their current role. If they're not working, I always like to go into coursework and see what their favorite class has been or is, and if they could change anything about the curriculum, and also what they dislike. So that kind of gives me an idea of what they are going to like in the position and what they might dislike about the position.
Good.
Rose, one of the last questions we ask typically is, why should we hire them? And it allows them to expand. It gives them the floor to really talk about the well-rounded individual that they are and all of their experiences and how it would be applicable to the position and to the team and the organization. So it's really an opportunity for them to showcase themselves. A lot of the questions are geared towards specific answers and responses that we are looking for, of course. But really that last question is really to give them the floor and give them the opportunity to showcase themselves. And it's okay to be confident in that response, to brag. And we want to see the innovation that comes out of it. We want to be able to see how they work with the team, et cetera. So we always ask that as one of our last questions to wrap up the interview.
That's good, because I always call that the final sale. Like, you got to sell yourself, right? And so it's the
Right.
wrap up, it's the sell, and it's the ask, right?
You
Yes.
got it.
Did you have anything to add, Sophita?
Yeah, so for us, our internship program, it's like they're owning their own business. So we always ask them, we know you're in school, but have you ever thought about in the future working for yourself? And what does that really look like? Because for us, our interns, they actually get licensed with their life health and annuity license. And so they are really connecting with clients, really building their pipeline of clients, of course, all under the guidance of our team. So for that question, it really kind of gives us, the chance to see if they do work well independently or if they really require that team environment.
Mm-hmm. Great, great.
Okay.
Can you give me an example of maybe a red flag in a candidate? Meaning, like, what's a big no-no to do?
I would say,
This is, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. One of the questions that gives me an opportunity to identify a red flag, if I ask this question 10 times, believe it or not, at least 5 people are going to answer it wrong. And the question is, give an example of a time when you had encountered a conflict with a colleague or leader. And so if you say, I've never had a conflict, wrong answer. And why is that the wrong answer? It's the wrong answer because we're all human beings. We know people get on your nerves. That's impossible that folks don't. And it's impossible that we're not going to encounter conflict. So with that question, I'm looking to see how authentic you are going to be, and also want to know how you handled it.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Rose, to follow up with Kevin, we do something very similar. And really what we're trying to, just to kind of keep it simple here for everybody, is if you're the type of person that is going to continue to admire the problem or the conflict, rather than have a solution and how you work together to solve that, those are the red flags that we're looking for. And just like Kevin was sharing, oftentimes they'll highlight the problem and the conflict and really forget about the solution and how they work together to solve that. So something really, really critical and important to us as an organization, because we don't work in silos. We work with our students and in a team collaborative environment. So that's big and key for us.
Great.
And I couldn't agree more with Kevin and Andy also. It is such a red flag if they can't come up with something that they can improve upon when we ask about strengths, weaknesses, or even that example too with how they resolved a conflict or if they've ever had a conflict. But one of our red flags is actually before we even select them for an interview. And if we see that they are applying to every single position we have available. There's no way that one individual can be a product manager and also, work in IT or also our medical clinic or, have that creative ability and work in marketing. So that is definitely a red flag when we see frequent appliers and we don't really know where they're wanting to go, and it doesn't really define what their skill sets are.
Right. Great feedback. Yes, that is a great one.
I would like to add too, if, So something that I look for is how candidates are talking about previous employers. If they're talking negatively about previous employers, that's a really big red flag for me.
Absolutely.
So, or just negative talk in general, you know, as far as we really want someone who's going to positively impact the team and really work great in a collaborative environment. So attitude goes a long way and we want it to be positive.
Great.
Yeah, and for us, it's really goal driven. You know, what are your goals for once you do graduate? So for us, it's really focusing on what their goals are, and then trying to see how that will then align with our company.
Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about focus
Mhm.
and, you know, making sure that you can articulate your goals when we're talking to our students. Yes. Absolutely. Great. Fantastic. Let's see. How about how about this one? How do you recommend a candidate follow up to you after an interview? What's the best?
Oh, please let me start with this. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, let me, if you don't mind, I'm picking up my phone and I'm passionate about this. But you please don't do this, okay? Please do not email and call every day. I'm speaking for myself, okay? I, and especially with FGCU grads, well, you know, all people too, but one thing about those with FGCU grads, they're very professional. Their professional decorum is just solid. Every time I see FGCU, I know what type of candidate I'm going to get. So I'm sure you find folks who are listening, this may not pertain to you. I appreciate eagerness, I appreciate persistence, but there's a fine line with eagerness and persistence to, frankly, just kind of unrealistically seeking, you know, some type of contact from the recruiter to gain information. If I'm speaking to you on a Monday, you call Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, ask for an update. That's not, I don't think that is effective. I think I can speak for most of the recruiters who are listening. We authentically want to give you communication as it pertains to your status. Sometimes we are not able to do that. So I would ask, and I tell my candidates, hey, give me a couple weeks. If you reach out to me every 2 weeks, I will give you an update. I don't mind that. To me, I think that's realistic persistence. So that's just my opinion. And also, please be patient with the recruiter. Don't assume that we're ignoring you. We're not, trust me. And I tell them, I have a job because of you. So please approach it that way.
For us, very similar to Kevin, for us just to take it a little bit, just a simple email, thank you, back to us goes a long way, or back to the actual hiring manager or whoever was in on that interview team. So it's really critical that you understand and know that who's sitting in that room. And that's a big component for us is you're interviewing for a position that we are putting you in front of for kids. And just a simple thank you for the interview and for the time that we've taken and you have taken for us as well goes a long way. And like Kevin said, there's a lot going on in all of our worlds here, and we're not ignoring you if we don't respond back to you. So just be patient and understand and know that. But just a simple thank you, I think, goes a long way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with both Andy and Kevin. Email, we are wanting to fill our positions, of course, but it's just the patience. But always sending a follow-up email is great. And then the recruiters, we definitely will get back to you.
I was also going to mention too, if for some reason the candidate doesn't receive a timeline during their interview, they should ask. That should be one of their follow-up questions to the recruiter or hiring manager. When can I expect to hear back? And typically ours is within 2 weeks, so they should at least wait until that time frame to follow up.
That's a great point, Alyssa. Yep.
Great. Okay, so I'm thinking, When you're thinking about, we talked a little bit earlier about having the candidate prepare for the interview. So besides maybe doing some preliminary research, how else do you suggest that they prepare?
I say role
Mock
play.
interviewing.
Yeah. Hey, we said the same thing. Yeah.
What did you say, Alyssa?
Mock interviewing, whether it be whether it be there. I mean, FGCU has great resources to do that, or even with friends or family. I mean, it's so easy just to sit down for a few minutes and practice questions and answering questions. It really helps go a long way, and it makes you more confident when you go into the interview as well.
Great.
I love that. Yeah, I you know, like you stated, Rose, definitely you're doing your research on the top, 10 behavioral based interviews. Well, have someone who is really just honest with you and role play with them, and ask them to give you feedback. If you're fortunate to have someone who's an expert in that, ask them. But it's always okay also to have someone who is a peer, and just practice. Preparation, I tell you, builds confidence.
And hey, we offer that research.
Yes.
I kind of want to touch on that when going back to what Alyssa said about one of the red flags is when they notice that everybody's applying to multiple positions out there. Part of that preparation, if you're preparing for a position, make sure that position aligns with what your goals are and where you want to go. Just don't go after something just because it's a job and it's going to provide employment for you, because oftentimes that is something that you're not going to be able to stick with. Your heart's not going to be there, the passion's not going to be there, and that's going to reflect, and it's going to provide a potentially a harmful situation towards the end there if you're looking to seek other employment or if you're asked to leave the company, etc. So make sure that you're truly aligning what you're going after with what your goals are and where you want to go.
I would also say, read through the job description as well as many times as you can, just to really understand what the job is asking for, what skills it requires, what experience it requires. You can also build a lot of your questions to ask interviewers based on that job description, as well as the interview list. We always send out the candidate interview list beforehand so they know who they're going to be meeting with that day. So by taking the extra time to even go on LinkedIn, searching those people, seeing what they did before they came to the company, that really helps you build confidence in asking questions, and at least gives you some questions to ask, because that would probably be one of my red flags too, is when they don't have a question to ask after the interview.
I would also say check out Glassdoor. I think Glassdoor is your friend. Past candidates or even employees, they've posted their questions, so you can prepare that way. It kind of gives you a head start. It's not a guarantee those questions will be asked, but if they do, you'll be better prepared for it.
Okay, good. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, let's, I'm going to ask one last question that I prepared, and then I want to open it up to be able to ask you some questions. So any final tips or words of wisdom on interviewing in any capacity, anything we haven't touched on maybe?
Dress professionally to your interview.
Yes. Thank you.
I was hoping somebody would say that.
Yes.
Yes, I always, and I've given many presentations to FGCU students on this specific topic, and it goes such a long way. I mean, first impressions are everything, and we've even sent some candidates home based on how they've come dressed to an interview. So if you're unsure, ask someone. I know FGCU even has a lot of resources with Dress for Success. I mean, there's so many avenues you could go to if you're not sure what to wear. I mean, it goes a long, long way. And you would hate to not get the job based on what you come dressed as. So.
And we have tons of resources, so ask us if you don't know. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, first impressions go a long way. And one thing that goes a long way is a smile. A smile. When I introduce myself to you, a candidate, I'm going to smile, and I would love one in return. And most cases, if a candidate's not smiling because they're nervous, okay, I get that. My suggestion as well: admit that you're nervous. The human element is going to come into place when it comes to us as recruiters. We're going to empathize with you. And also they'll help us understand, okay, let me probably, ask some more questions to help this candidate feel a bit more comfortable. So I think that's my final tip.
And one last thing that we probably don't think of because they're attached to us 24/7, and that's just kind of the world that we live in. Leave your cell phone in the car.
Amen.
It can be a distraction, and oftentimes when you think it's off or it's on vibrate or whatnot, it can really throw your concentration off, and it becomes a distracting not only to you as the interviewee, but also the team that's interviewing you. So just leave it in the car. You can wait your 30 minutes, an hour, however long that interview is going to be, and then you can respond to what you need to get back to.
Great tip. So Theta, did you have one?
No, I completely agree with what everybody said. But the one that really sticks with us is dress to impress, because you really don't, you can't reinvent the first impression.
Right.
So just really dress to impress.
Take it up a notch, right?
Yeah.
Keely, any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone here. Definitely, I'm one of those, like, keep eye contact, smile, be you. Like, at the end of the day, we're hiring you to make an impact. We saw something in you that you could add to our team, so just be you. And then we're, like, not super professional in our environment. Like, we're professional, but, like, not like dressing, I guess. We're more of a casual environment. But for interviews, like, business casual, like, really get to understand the environment where you're interviewing.
We always recommend dress up until you actually get the job, and then you can dress down and casual. Okay, so I wanted to see if some of the students or the participants online would like to ask some questions to any of you. So go ahead if you want to either unmute yourself and ask, or you can do it in the chat. Either way is fine. Anybody? Adam or Raf, do you want to kick off the students? Did you have anything?
Well, I'd like to just bring up my favorite point that Alyssa made about, making sure you're reading the job posting. Students always tell us, how can I best prepare? How can I feel the most ready? What these companies are literally telling you what is expected. So know the job description, prepare your questions ahead of time based off of those, and any questions you may have, ask them. Don't come out of the interview at the end with still questions about the company. One, you're going to look more interested in the position, right? Like, I really want this job. I really invested in it. And two, you don't leave with that sense of, oh man, I don't really feel too confident in it. But thank you, Alyssa, for throwing out that reading the job description, because you guys are telling them exactly what you're looking for.
Problem. And I like your background, by the way, Adam.
All right, students, would you like to ask anything?
I have a question. This is Abigail.
Okay, Abigail, go for it.
My question is, do you guys have any recommendation as, recruiters and interviewers for people who are looking to make a career switch? So if you have a lot of experience in a particular field, but you're looking to kind of, switch fields, do you have any recommendation on how to make your resume show that even if, the experiences you've had in your previous, sector that you worked in can still apply to the job you're looking to apply for?
Yeah, I think you just touched on how to approach it. Because I can imagine, well, I did that. I was in business for a major corporation for 13 years, and I wanted to get into human resources. So the opportunity, and I did, of course, you do your research. Before I even go there, one thing also too, be prepared to do the, if you would, baseline or the entry level opportunity. In my case, that was very humbling in 13 years in a particular industry and being successful in it and starting all over going to human resources. So I got into recruiting and that was my path. So what I did was, as you just alluded to, I applied the different, if you would, skill sets needed to be successful in recruiting that I had in the business world. And then I applied that to, I highlighted those skill sets on my resume when I was applying for opportunities.
You can also state something in your objective. I know some students ask, should I put an objective on my resume? Should I not? But in this case, if you're trying to make a career switch, you can easily state that in your objective as well.
And the cover letter helps a lot for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the cover letter, you can definitely explain, why you're looking to make the career switch and how you'd be an asset, to that new team or department.
For us in education, we do get a lot of career changers. Unfortunately, especially at a time like this, where unemployment is skyrocketed. So we have a lot of interest from career changers. And one of the best pieces of advice that we can give is we can teach you how to teach. That's not the issue there. We have plenty of supports and resources within our district to be able to get you to where you can actually teach. But you have to be committed. You have to be passionate. You have to have those skill sets that you can take no matter what job you are in and no matter what profession you are in. Those skill sets are going to replicate themselves wherever you go. So we want to be able to see that. We know that you're coming from a different career. We know that your experiences are going to be different, and that's okay. But the skill sets that you would take in a business world would still apply to the education world. And just knowing that and being able to talk about that and passionate and be committed, that's what we're looking for.
And to kind of piggyback on that, when you talk about your transferable skills, get used to and learn how to talk about those transferable skills in the language of the field that you want to go into. So practicing how to articulate those transferable skills is really important.
And just to add as well, if you are thinking about doing a career switch, if you're taking any courses or have any, personal projects within that area, definitely put that on your resume and highlight that, because that will, show that you're really kind of going after that interest, that new interest.
Great. I do have a question from Eric. When I do an interview for a specific job, I think he says, should I mention experience through my life? Example, music.
Absolutely.
Specific job, yeah.
Yeah, because that helps us get an idea of who you are.
Right.
And I love personal inspirations when it comes to interviews. I'm gonna tell you why. As an interviewer, especially in my case, I may interview 4 people a day, and I'm asking the same questions in most cases, maybe not in the same order. So that really makes it more interesting for me. And so I gotta be honest, it's like Groundhog's Day sometimes. But yeah, please definitely share what inspires you to do what you do, or what inspires you to do what you do. It gives us a window of who you are as a person.
Absolutely.
And doesn't it make you memorable, right? I mean, then you remember that.
You stand out. Yeah.
And another question, and I'm pretty sure you did mention this earlier. So if they ask you for any cons, that you would have with the job, like what do you suggest that the response should be? I know you guys mentioned about red flags and conflicts with other coworkers or finding solutions. So what advice would you have for me to tell them to respond if they ask, are there any cons with taking this job?
Cons, like if they're asking, what are the negatives of the job?
Yeah, if they ask that.
Right, what should he say?
Are
Are
you
you talking about
referring to
example would
kind of,
be like
yeah,
long
you're
hours
referring to when
on
we
the
ask,
weekend? Oops, sorry, go
Alyssa,
ahead. Yeah.
Alyssa, you go.
Are you referring to when we ask what you like about your current job or class, or what you dislike about your current job? Is that what?
I'm just talking about it in general. In general, with if this job, you know, asks for whatchamacallit, if the job asks, are there any, anything, any problems you might have.
Eric, are
With
you
the new
referring
role?
to,
What?
Eric, are you referring to a possibility of long hours, weekends, etc.?
Yeah.
I think he's getting at questions like, what do you foresee are going to be the challenges if you decide to accept this role?
Mm-hmm.
Good interpretation.
So, I mean, like Andy said, if it were in regards to hours or schedule, typically that information is given to you in advance.
Yeah.
Usually during a phone interview, we want to make sure that that you're comfortable with those hours before we decide to move forward with you as a candidate. So I would think, especially during that initial phone conversation, we would want you to be honest with us and let us know, that those hours are not comfortable for you or you're not available to work those. And we would try and work with you or maybe offer you a different opportunity to apply for.
Thank you.
I think also, like for instance, I appreciate that question because I definitely want to speak to that. For instance, I had candidates who have on their resume that they're bilingual in a particular language, okay? I'm gonna speak to that because in our industry, the ability to speak multiple languages is absolutely essential, especially in Spanish, German, and also Haitian Creole. Well, at this instance, there was a situation where I asked the candidate, about that, and to speak on, you said the cons, the opportunity called for that. We preferred someone who spoke Spanish, and so the young lady stated, "Yeah, but I really don't want to do that, majority of my opportunity. I like to help if needed, but I prefer to speak English majority of the time." Well, that didn't hinder my interest in her. She was still a solid candidate. So transparency is everything, so just be honest and be true to yourself in that respect and allow us to choose whether or not, hey, you'll fit or not.
Great.
To
Great
piggyback off of that as well, that may be something that you pick up that you didn't pick up during the research piece of applying for the position. And that may be a question that they have asked you or that you have asked the company, and it doesn't align with what you're looking for. So that would be an opportunity for you to be able to be upfront with the employer and say, this is not exactly what I had intended or thought it was going to be. And that would be a professional way to remove yourself so that you're not wasting your time or the employer's time.
Great feedback. Yes, absolutely.
Andy spoke on this earlier. You need to interview us too.
Right.
Interview us, so you have the right to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, someone asked, what are good general questions for an interviewee to ask? I didn't ask this, someone else did, but I'm kind of curious too. Because like you said, you don't want to go through an interview without having questions in mind, but then the interview's done and suddenly you have a question in mind that you didn't ask, if you forgot to ask.
Eric, just a couple on for the rest of the group. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy.
Just a couple generic questions to ask, and I'm not going to give you the specific questions to ask, but in a generic sense would be, you're really looking for questions to ask that are, you're trying to dig out what type of supports and resources are in place for the opportunity for you to be able to continue to grow if you were to stay with that company. So you're going into a position, and we should always have the mindset that we want to be able to look to grow. And so those are questions that you are going to want to dig out of the employer, is to find out what supports are in place for somebody coming brand new into this position, into this company, and it may be a career change as well. So those supports and resources may be important for you to be able to be successful, but also what additional growth opportunities are there out there? So supports and growth opportunities would be two very good questions, and you can ask a multitude of those.
Okay, I have another question. Did you want to add, Keely?
I was just going to say that will help with challenges too. So like uncovering like what specific challenges they may encounter in the role. So understanding the level of support and resources that they have available to them, you know, that will help them with that as well. So
Great. I have a question. For each of your companies, would it be best to contact you directly, contact a specific hiring manager, or complete an online application?
So for us here at Northwestern Mutual, I'm the first point of contact. And so I always encourage students to contact me directly.
Okay.
And they can do that via phone or email.
And you're welcome to put your phone or your email in the chat if you would like, Sothita, or any of the recruiters.
Rose, I'm gonna need your help with that.
Okay, I'll do it. Would you like me to put yours?
Yes, please, because actually, and for those who are listening, especially you all, if you just let me know that you applied to an opportunity, and you participated in this this forum here, that would definitely help me. So yes, please do that. And email is the most effective way of communication for me.
And for us, would be application followed up with an email, because at some point we're going to have you apply to the school district and to those specific positions, but then follow that up with an email as well.
I would agree with Andy, just from an Arthric standpoint too. To be considered for a position, you'd have to apply online. So that would be the first step. And then candidates are more than welcome to reach out to us directly to follow up.
For each movie.
Great. Keely's got her stuff in there. Great. Sothita has her stuff in there. I will put Kevin's in there.
Thank you, Rose.
Yep.
Rose, I'm working on mine. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, we have a question from Ashraf. He got a part-time offer for a part-time job, and she said to just email me when I'm ready. It is working from home, so the interview could be virtual. Any employers tell me when I should email her? Okay. Was it from Ashraf? Was it from one of these companies?
No.
No. Okay. All right. I think if you're ready to work, I would start working. I would email her and say I'm ready to work.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any more questions here? Anyone? I'm going to put Kevin's info. Do you have any more comments, our recruiters?
I just have a quick question for all the employers on the phone. Did anyone cancel their internship programs for the summer based on COVID-19 or still hiring?
We did at Reach Moby for the time being, just given that we're still working remotely. And because of that, we have put our internships on hold. But we're still hiring full-time roles and onboarding those individuals virtually.
Same for us as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we canceled our summer interns for us, and we've gone to an electronic onboarding process to try to eliminate as much of the contact. But we are continuing to hire our full-time staff.
I am not sure. However, I can communicate that answer to someone to let you know. I'm not sure at this point.
For us, our summer internship is still a go and active. However, when it comes to our students going out meeting with clients, all the clients meetings all have been virtual. So the students are in the office and meeting with their mentors and veteran advisors, but when they actually are meeting with clients, it's all done virtually.
Okay, good, good. I'm going to answer. Eric is asking for questions for a part-time job. Eric, we have a huge resource on our Career Development Services website, and there's an interviewing packet that will walk through lots of questions that you can prepare, as well as questions that you can ask an employer, so that you can go through those questions and kind of filter out what works for you. So make sure that you all pay attention to all the resources that we have posted already online. And then we also have a bunch of virtual things that we have shifted to during this COVID time while we're not always in the office. And so make sure that you all take advantage of the rest of the workshops that we've done similar to this, and we've recorded them all so you can go back and look at them. And there's lots of good resources. There's an extra little button there that's called supporting materials on the front page, and it's got a whole bunch of goodies in it. And so I would really strongly encourage all of you to take a look at our stuff as well.
And I just gave Eric my email so I can send him.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Raphael.
And Raphael and Adam are our two career advisors in our office. So that's why they've been so participatory, which we love. And you can make an appointment and see both of them. Well, you can see them virtually, or you can talk to them on the phone.
Speak with us.
Yes, you can speak with them. Any last comments from anyone?
Hey, I just want to say thank you for having me, and I commend all of you students that are investing in your future, gaining knowledge, you know, to be as prepared as you possibly can for the opportunities that come your way. And I wish you all well. I'm looking forward to see some applicants.
Good, good.
Yes,
All right,
thanks,
well,
Rose.
thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yep.